What is going on, everybody? It is a special edition of Pop Culture Crisis. This is a review for Chapter 4 of Obi Wan Kenobi, in a series where Obi Wan Kenobi is very rarely on screen, or so it seems to me. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host, who knows absolutely nothing about Star Wars and is probably the better off for it, given the state of this TV show. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. If you didn't notice already, we have ambient mood lighting in the studio today.
It fits my vibe after watching this. I want to take a nap.
I know more about Star Wars than when I started watching
I was going to say, she's learning a lot.
Slowly but surely. And that is the voice of our resident expert, and probably slowly being driven as mad as I am.
Indeed, but you know, we're getting through this. We're almost there.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Andrew, game developer at Timcast, and happy to be back here.
Yes, to talk about Episode 4, Bait and Switch. Okay, before we get into it, that is like the number one thing that was that when everybody was first talking about this was that they were calling this show a bait and switch, which I did not give them credence to early on, because I said, look, it could even out, even though deep down in my heart of hearts I knew that that's not what was going to happen. But there's
what was the bait?
The bait was that you would assume that this was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker in some fashion or another, and that just is not what is happening here in the slightest. In fact, it's literally the opposite of that. It's him and Leia.
And a lot of Reva.
And a lot of this poor actress who's just totally miscast. And it's like, there's a scene, I didn't even re-pull it up. Like, they're like, you guys know I don't post negative stuff about movies and TV on social media because I do enough of that here. But there's this scene in that show, in this episode, which we'll get to eventually, where Reva is interrogating like a 6-year-old child, and it is the worst exchange I've seen on TV in a very, very long time.
This episode
so bad.
in particular, I felt had very little plot and a lot of breaking between scenes. Like, you'll watch this dialogue and then this dialogue and then this dialogue, where it's the same scene with the same thing happening. And
the purpose of this episode was what? It was for him to rescue.
This is what I struggle with this episode, because so we start out and it's a continuation of the third episode, which leaves off with Leia being captured.
Yes.
Right. So we're following Obi-Wan and his little crew of rebels going to rescue her. But pretty much the only thing that results from all this, okay, she gets captured and has to get rescued yet again, which we've already done that. The only thing that results from this is that now the Empire is able to track their location.
Yes.
Despite having them in their hands at multiple times.
She's like, we could have stopped them, but instead, I guess the idea here is that she's going to track down not just them, but also all the people in the network that what's her name, Tala talked about. And it really did feel like, okay, I'm one of those people who tries to not fall into like the look at them making the men look incompetent, but they really do. Other than the scene. And I'm jumping around here. Other than the scene where he basically force prevents the glass from breaking, he looks incompetent the whole episode. Obi-Wan Kenobi looks incompetent all the time.
I'm not sure I agree.
Tala looked pretty incompetent.
They all look incompetent.
Had that, like, I don't know, that communication device.
That was
and
rough.
was very obviously whispering to Obi-Wan in front of.
And then she just leaves her communicator on the desk unattended with Obi-Wan talking through.
I don't think it was a gendered thing.
He gets spotted like when he's trying to escape with Leia, and it's just like, I'm like, dude.
The trench coat thing was so. I didn't understand the tone of that. Is this a suspenseful scene or is it comedic?
I really think all of these are meant to be suspenseful, and it's just, I can't take it seriously when you have a shot of Obi-Wan Kenobi in a trench coat with a little girl
and suspiciously the shot like cuts off their feet.
Yeah,
which anyone would see.
And it's like just the whole. And okay, all right. So I
we are jumping a lot. We should.
We're gonna keep jumping around. You know, I'm not gonna just start reading.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Never mind.
Go. You want to keep going?
Sure.
Where do we go to?
Let me jump back to one thing. So last episode, there was a question about, Reva's character and what her timeline looks like outside of the series, and I said I was going to come back with an answer. She's actually a new character for this show specifically. She's not shown up in any of the media properties.
That's even worse.
A little bit, because so the other Inquisitors that we've seen in this show, the Grand Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother, have been in other properties outside of the main
huge
movies.
problem here is the Fifth Brother is way cooler looking and way more interesting.
And more intimidating.
And more intimidating. Like, he's got his voice, he's got the voice.
But is that only because he isn't really given any lines? And as soon as they write lines for him, that will just be gone.
He just
all
looks
of
cooler.
his lines revolve around, like, rivalry with Reva. I wanted to run this theory past you guys. Some people think that Reva is trying to eventually kill Obi-Wan so that she can get closer to Vader, so she can kill Vader. That they think that's her.
They were literally in the same room
goal.
this episode.
Right,
Yeah,
but it's
Vader's
like she's playing the long game of her big revenge plan.
So would that make her like a bad guy, but not like a total? I mean, we know.
I
that
think what they were trying to do with the interrogation dialogue is get us to understand Reva's perspective more personally.
That interrogation scene should be banned from cinema.
Her backstory wasn't sympathetic, and the interrogation was cheesy.
That scene should be dismissed from all history of cinema.
Is hard.
It should
what
be
did
burned.
She say again?
She's like,
let's make your tears real.
Do you like pain?
She's
like a 10-year-old
so
girl.
Cartoonish.
And by she's not tenured. There's no way that.
Then Leia is sitting there, still being snarky and Yas Queen Slay when she's literally a child.
You should be terrified.
Who, is getting her life threatened.
Or at least show, that's the other thing, show at least the slightest bit of vulnerability. She did that a little bit when they were like going to when he was like looking at when Obi-Wan was like looking at the tombs. And they were like going to do whatever they were going to do to little Leia, and she kind of started to show a little bit. And she's honestly better than the girl playing Reva.
I have to agree.
It's a total miscast. Like, I don't know if it's just that the emotions don't reach her face. It's you pointed out the lightsaber thing where she's like deflecting.
The pew-pews. What are those called?
Laser bolts.
Got it.
And it's just. It doesn't look natural. It doesn't look real. She looks like she's naturally kind of born to play a good guy. Maybe this is all a humongous... they're pulling the wool over her eyes and she's actually a good guy at the end, which I think would make me even more angry.
Yeah, so you're going back to Mary's theory, which I hadn't heard before. I suppose it's possible. I don't know how they can flesh that out in 2 episodes, though.
No.
I just don't see it because there's so much else that has to be wrapped up here.
That's the problem.
Here's my other problem. Okay, we were talking the other day about how Warner Brothers is in deep trouble because they can't reshoot the Flash movie because Ezra Miller's in like every scene of the Flash movie. Obi Wan Kenobi is not even in like a quarter to half of the scenes of a show called Obi Wan Kenobi, and I'm getting very, very, very frustrated.
Yeah, they seem to do this a lot with new properties where they'll sideline the old characters that people love and give us the new ones that we're supposed to enjoy even more.
Because they know if they call it something else, it won't receive the fanfare.
You wouldn't watch Reva?
I wouldn't watch the Reva a Star Wars story. I wouldn't watch that. Like, I wouldn't want to watch like the thing about little 10-year-old. Or she's not 10. There's no way that little girl is 10 years old. The
character is 10.
It can't be.
The character is. This is 10 years after.
That is interesting because usually they'll find an older actor, a child actor that can play younger.
I think appearance-wise, she was a great casting choice.
If they were to pick someone, if they were to allow that character to appear more vulnerable and less snarky and annoying, that's the problem I have with us. They're all snarky and annoying.
I think they tried to do.
Is this a staring contest?
That's bad.
Thing?
Yeah, I think they tried to do that a little bit where you see she kind of is weakened up a little bit by the interrogation, and then at the end where she's holding Obi-Wan's hand. We're meant to, sympathize with her a little bit, but I don't think it's enough.
Well, that line made it seem to me by inference that she understood the mind trick.
Well,
that was attempted on her.
Right. So I want to talk about that.
But she's not supposed to know that.
There's a lot of issues with this, and so basically in this interrogation scene, Reva tries to use the Force to mind read Leia effectively.
She's like, "You're strong." I was like, women validating women.
Leia kind of resists it, which is Leia has no knowledge that she's Force sensitive at this point. She doesn't until pretty much the end of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, several years later. So she should not be at all capable of doing this. And if she is capable of doing this, Reva should immediately be like, oh, this is a Force-sensitive person. I'm going to tell Lord Vader about this. Yeah. I'm literally a Jedi hunter. This is my job.
Yep.
So,
which is another thing towards the theory that she might be like subverting Vader. That she would want to spare Leia's life. Maybe also because of like her backstory. From her childhood, she feels sympathetic towards Leia in some way.
Every time she tries to deliver sinister dialogue, I just want to hear like clown music in the background. It's not like it's just the
intimidation is severely lacking.
It's like it's not like I said, Kang, the actor who plays the fifth brother, is like infinitely more frightening and cool sounding whenever when he talks, he just sounds cool. He doesn't even get cool lines. He just sounds cool because the way he's delivering the dialogue, and the makeup plays a big part of that in giving him a unique look, whereas Reva just looks generic and uninteresting, and she's not able to pull a performance out of that material. I don't know if this is just a matter of the dialogue, like Deborah Chow missing the mark on the direction she's giving her, but like when you're watching the scene where she's like deflecting the
laser bolt.
It is the fakest looking thing I've seen.
This scene
in her eyes, she's like,
where she runs out and we see a little bit of her lightsaber combat. I mean, it's strange to me because the choreography there it looks so unnatural. It looks like she's never held a lightsaber before.
Her upper body like only kind of moves, like her arms move.
It's the
but
way
like,
the lightsaber is just.
Did you send me?
About
did you send me the link to this?
I did. Yeah.
It was that. Okay. Was that okay?
Should we show that?
I'm gonna see. Yeah, I'm gonna actually pull it up here. And we're gonna watch this. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, okay. So I don't know if we can do audio for.
It doesn't have audio.
It doesn't have audio. Okay, so like
that to me looks like a first take.
She's waving it around like a baseball bat.
Right. This is like when you go to Disneyland and they give you an inflatable lightsaber and you're like, "Woo! I'm gonna swing it around." And I have to say, one of the only thing that I liked about this episode is Obi-Wan's choreography with his lightsaber scenes actually looked really good and reminiscent of the way he fought in the prequels.
Yes.
And I was like, that's cool. This feels like old Obi-Wan, finally. This is the one piece of it that we get. And it looked very well done. So the disconnect between that scene and this scene is just crazy.
The tweet says, every week this show looks cheaper and cheaper. It's incredible. This is worse than a mid-2000s sci-fi show. Hey, I love the mid-2000s sci-fi shows.
Yeah, that was in the replies,
those have fantastic writing. This does not have fantastic writing, ladies and gentlemen. Like, you're insulting, like, mid-2000s sci-fi shows. I will watch Warehouse 13 any day of the week over this garbage. That is my personal opinion on this. Okay, keep going.
Sure. So we talked about the interrogation. There's other problems I have with that. So Rava's trying to get information about this path that the rebels are using to transport people around secretly.
Yeah.
And she's interrogating a 10-year-old girl who's been exposed to this path for a day?
Yeah.
And knows nothing about it because she's just being carted around.
Yep.
So what did you expect to get from this girl?
Okay, I was thinking that too, because
what's the goal of this interrogation?
How would she even know that?
She wouldn't.
They need to go back and say, like, somehow the Force is what made those guys trying to abduct her run like idiots when she was like trying to get away in episode 1, and they all run like really, really slow because it's like a child running away, and they would be able to catch up in one pace.
Jumping between buildings that are an inch apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. What was next?
So in general, this episode, it seemed to me like there were a lot more contrivances with the plot for just a lot of weird details. Like they talk about this, I forget what they call it, but it's basically this stronghold where they end up going, which is where Leia was taken. And it just has no shields because they're like, literally one of the characters says, no one would be stupid enough to try to attack it. Mm-hmm. Okay. First of all, we're going to ignore the fact that in Jedi Fallen Order, literally 5 years earlier in the timeline, that did happen, and it was broken into. So they clearly haven't learned their lesson. But what kind of stronghold doesn't have shields or like outer armaments, turrets, anything?
That would just make too much sense.
I was also confused about Tala's, like, Tala just walked in, pretty much used like Yas Queen Slay.
She's like, I'm in charge. And they're like, show me your credentials.
Call me sir.
Yes.
And then walks in.
And Beta Dude goes like, okay, yes.
She fumbles the bag once she gets inside. And the choreography of her fights are so stupid because like in this episode, they tried to just like pan away from any like hand-to-hand combat. Like Obi-Wan, had hand-to-hand combat that they panned away from, and then for her they did the same thing where she was like choking some like stormtrooper out.
Yeah, she takes out these two stormtroopers. One of them she literally just bops on the forehead.
Right.
He's got a helmet
the other
on,
one
like,
is just standing there
like
He took a dive.
The one that she smacks in the head is like dazed and confused for 10 seconds.
Also,
while wearing a helmet.
They also tried to make it seem like that. What was the character Wade who died? Was that the name of the character?
I had to dig through the trenches of the internet to find out who this guy was.
I was wondering why we should care.
Right.
But that's the thing. They were playing it up like he made, like there was this great sacrifice with all this. This is the problem with the writing today. Because the people writing this garbage are standing on the shoulders of giants, meaning George Lucas and everything that came before them. They want the emotional payoff without doing the work to earn the emotional payoff. There is no emotional payoff there. He dies and everyone's like, meh.
Right.
Like,
who is that guy again? I forgot.
Who? Yeah. I don't know. Nobody cares. Nobody freaking cares because you haven't done the work to build the lore, and everyone knows that you're basically pretenders to the throne and that you don't know what you're doing. Yep. It's insane. Like, I was like, somebody died, and there's like somebody like wrote an article, and they're like, oh, his death tells us so much about this. And the first reply is like, what is this? You shill? It doesn't mean anything. Nobody knows what the frick you're talking about.
There's so many people shilling for this series on Twitter. I was just like looking through the keywords, and I feel like there were some people who went into watching this already decided that they were favorable to it, and no amount of plot discrepancies or like mediocre dialogue, mediocre budgeting, choreography could change their opinion on that, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the case with other Star Wars. Like the sequel trilogy had the same problem.
Why though? Why are they shilling for it so hard? It's like it has nothing to do with you.
Disney.
It's a show.
Because it's like,
are they just like?
On one hand, I'd like to think that Disney's smart enough to just pay these people to be dumb enough, like, so if maybe not that, but at the very least, they're people who are like stunted in a way, and like so much of their identity is tied to like
just Disney adults.
To Disney, like not even Star Wars, to Disney, that they will just
really?
Do
you think getting acquired by Disney like gave Star Wars new fans?
No. Well, I think it gave them.
I disagree with you. I think it definitely did.
It changed it fundamentally. It didn't add fans. It just replaced them with different ones because it lost the long-term ones who loved the originals and replaced them with activist type fans.
I'm not so sure. I think there are plenty of fans of the originals who just aren't as invested as someone like myself, and just, don't really think too hard about the content they watch, and they're like, okay, I enjoy this. Lightsaber's cool. We're good.
I will say that the scene where he prevents the glass from breaking, that was the only scene in the whole episode I liked.
You liked it?
I enjoyed that.
Please, go on.
Well, like I said, because I don't really care much about the source material, at least he looked competent at what he was doing and was able to hold it off and whatnot. That was the only thing. The score sucked.
I like what Obi Wan was doing in that scene. My problem is this is the part of the base that's completely underwater. And we're meant to believe that the windows in this corridor, which is underwater, are pressure resistant for the whole ocean that's sitting on it, but a single blaster bolt cracks it enough to where it can break?
Yeah, logically, I'm not saying that it made sense. I'm saying that it showed him being competent at being good at what he was doing.
Right. I mean, you could, if you want that same spectacle of the effect of it being flooded out, and that's the way he escapes the stormtroopers, why not have him break it himself with his lightsaber? Then at least I'll buy that he could get through it.
And then the glass doesn't break once it's submerged. Like once they make it into the next corridor, you'd think
the fact that the windows that are actually on the outside,
the inside windows wouldn't be pressure treated the same way.
Right, that's what I was going to say. The interior door of this corridor, when it completely floods over, is just fine. It's like leaking a little bit, but it's fine.
It's totally like nothing matters.
Like, that's not even lore. This is just physics we're talking about.
Yes,
now.
like I was
can't get that right.
I like when I saw that door close, I just rolled my eyes. I'm like,
but if you were saying this to the people shilling for the series, then they would be like, just suspend your disbelief. Like, it's a fantasy.
I have to not stand that argument.
I'm okay with that argument, but you have to earn it with good storytelling.
I don't think that's true. When people say, oh, it's a fantasy, so you don't have to believe in it. No, a fantasy world has to follow its own set of rules.
Most people do believe that it needs to follow something logically, and it needs to have its own internal logic as far as like what was the example in the new trilogy when the it propels forward when the ship with the ship.
Oh, the light speed.
The light speed.
Attack.
Okay, but for me, I'm actually softer on this than he would be in that, like, for me, good storytelling and excellent characterization can make me worry less about, like, some of my favorite shows make no sense. I admit that, but the characters are great. The writing is quippy and when it needs to be, serious when it needs to be. This does not dilute the crap with good writing. It's just crap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not sure I agree. I mean, anytime you introduce new things that are available in the fantasy world, then you have to go back and look at the old media and say, well, if this was a thing, then why wasn't it used here, here, and here? I'll give you an example. So in the new trilogy, you have Rey being able to heal things with the Force.
Yep.
If Anakin had this power, he would have never turned to the dark side. He could have been like, oh, I'm worried about Padme dying. That's okay. We can Force heal.
It's because Rey is the bestest, don't you know?
But things like that have a cascading effect where you go back and it just breaks other things.
Yep. And like I said, different people with different priorities for their media will label those things at different levels of importance. I don't label it as super important. If the writing is good, this show does not have the writing to withstand such problems. It needs to at least be internally consistent if the writing is going to suck.
I think that's fair.
And it's not pulling that off.
I'm very big on world building. It's something that Star Wars in the past has done very, very well. So that's why I get worked up about it.
Yep.
I have a couple other possibly stupid questions. Okay, if Reva stuck a tracking device on their ship, maybe this is nitpicky, but why didn't they start tracking them and following them?
Presumably that's what's going to happen. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. It's like, okay, we got the tracker because they can.
Okay. But then Vader was like so even-handed about it. He was like,
this is a big problem.
Even that line
when you put it like that. But then he's like killing innocent bystanders in another episode.
So yeah,
that was cringe.
Can't stand that. But Vader is notorious. Anyone in the Empire, no matter what level they're at, if they make a mistake to the degree that she did or less, he just kills them outright. There's no mercy. Like, that is what he's known for. That is why he's so feared, right? And he just lets her go when she was tasked with getting Kenobi, which they already failed with once. Now she's failed again. There is no chance. I was really hoping that they were going to have him kill her. Of course, it didn't happen.
It would have at least, like, I bet you they would have won some people back because it would have made it seem like internally consistent,
right?
And felt true to the characters.
Because again, this is the Obi Wan show, and Darth Vader needs to be the big baddie at the end, right? Not Reva. So this would have been the perfect time for him to step in, take her out because she made mistakes, and then set up 2 episodes where it truly is Obi-Wan versus Vader. I think they end up making her the big bad at the, or I think they turn her good. That's what I'm afraid of.
No, I'm saying
I think they're going to turn her good,
or at the very least they'll try to explain away why she's why she is the way she is. It's going to be hilarious because she's not going. Because no offense to the actress, she's not going to have the ability. Actually, you know what? She might have the ability. Like if it has to result in her looking sad and like and broken, she might have the her facial. The way she acts might actually work well for that, and that's why she just wasn't able to pull off the serious stuff before. Like maybe there's a strong emotional dialogue at the end, and that was the scene they used to cast her, and just not realizing that she wouldn't be able to do the stuff beforehand that would require that scene to carry more weight. So we'll have to see.
I have another maybe stupid question. What was the significance of Obi-Wan finding the tomb?
So those are Jedi that I presumably were collected by Inquisitors, and I'm not even sure if we're meant to believe that they're alive or dead in there. It seemed like they're dead and just being kept as like a collection. He does call it a crypt, so it would imply that they're dead.
And like, why were they all kind of irrelevant characters?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research.
I saw some were like from Clone Wars even.
Yeah, and I didn't even recognize I didn't recognize any of them, frankly, but some of them are they're all from extended universe stuff. None of them are from main movies that we should know about. So
it's just choices. It's a cheap way to get Easter eggs from
that. I think it's meant to add weight to like this is really what they're doing when they're hunting the Jedi, which we know, but to see it
they're hunting the Jedi when they're hunting the Jedi. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I could have guessed.
I thought they were just joking.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay.
So was there anything else that was stuck out to you that you really wanted to talk about?
So this timeline stuff really bothers me. So now the Empire, or at least Reva and presumably Lord Vader at this point, know that Leia has ties to the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
At some point, across this journey, she's going to go back to Alderaan with her family, and at no point in the next 9 years are they accosted by the Empire.
And they don't know that she's a Skywalker.
They don't know that. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
But they know that she has enough ties to the Rebel Alliance that they want to interrogate her.
Yep. A very bad interrogation
So,
that should
I'm
be stricken from the record books of cinema.
Yeah, I don't see how we're meant to believe that she and her family survived this, but they do.
But they do.
So,
well, so that's the other problem with all of this is we know where it ends up. So it's like,
right.
I don't. I still
Most
don't
of
like
us-
it.
most of us
At
know.
the very least, if you're going to tell a story where you know where it ends up, you should at least tell a good story along the way. They're not telling a good story along the way, and we know where it ends up.
Right.
That's worse.
Right.
That is worse.
We pointed it out that they just picked an awkward time to pick up in the middle.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
anything else super specific?
Something else that stuck out to me. So right at the end, after they escape from this fortress, so we see a shot when they come in that the hangar that they leave from is full of TIE fighters and other ships. When they leave, they're not pursued at all, which is because Reva was letting them go to be tracked. I can't believe that Obi-Wan would not be super suspicious about this.
Yeah.
Because he's dealt with this kind of thing before that we've seen in the other movies. He's just able to leave this fortress and no one's coming after him. The guy's got to be immediately like, hey, we're being tracked.
Well, that would make
But-
him competent, and they don't like
But
showing
that's
him
clearly not going
competent
to
to
happen because they took an entire episode to
Yeah.
set up him
You
being
were-
tracked so that he can be followed.
I didn't see Obi-Wan as incompetent.
It just
I think everyone was incompetent.
well, yes, they're all.
Yeah, I didn't
Tala
really-
was
but it's,
I didn't
but
really
it's
get
his
that vibe.
show. But it's
I get
his
it.
show.
I mean,
It
you
is-
have to remember
it
too.
is called Kenobi.
He was a commander in the Republic Army.
So it's just it's like that's just my observation as a casual fan that it's
Or
just
general, I guess. Someone's going to call me out. You used the wrong word.
Yes.
General Kenobi.
Yes. So we'll see where it goes. We've got 2 episodes left. Is there a way you can see them salvaging this?
At this point, I don't know. I keep asking for things and they
And I
don't
keep-
happen.
yes, I
I
keep
really
asking.
wanted Vader to kill Reva because that would be completely in line with his character, and letting her live is not at all.
Yep.
I said last time, maybe
It
they'll
is in the Yas Queen Slay era.
It is, unfortunately. It is.
Yes.
Last time I said, maybe they'll shift in the final 3 episodes. We'll get more Luke.
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening.
No,
I
I don't think we see.
I don't see how we get
You
back
might
to that.
catch some Luke at the end.
That's what I'm expecting now. One scene at the end where we get a taste of Luke on Tatooine. That is my expectation at this
Yep.
point.
It figures. It's
Yeah.
exactly what I expect.
I have
it
to
be.
wonder why, if they really wanted to do this time period, they didn't simply do a Darth Vader show. Because again, what should have happened with Obi-Wan is very boring. We know basically nothing about what Darth Vader was doing in this whole time, except that he was,
because the writers the writers would be like, but he's a bad guy. How do I write a story about a
He
bad
was
guy?
soaking.
They wouldn't know how to write him as like
It doesn't even need a good story if you just have 6 episodes of Darth Vader flying around the galaxy, like terrorizing, making sure the Empire's in line, like. And there's so much you could do because anything he goes and does is going to match up with where he ends up in A New Hope.
Yeah. I don't know if Disney has the guts to make the villain his own show where it's literally 6 episodes of him killing people.
I also meant to mention that thing I sent you earlier this week about the fact that it's not James Earl Jones.
Yeah, it's not his voice. It's an AI generated version of his voice.
I could have sworn I read somewhere it was, but that's interesting. Well, they did a good job with it. I'll give them
In the
that.
credits, they just kind of masked the fact that it was
Really?
actually AI.
Yeah.
Did they credit him with it?
Yeah.
Maybe
They just
maybe
added
that's
with
why
the
then.
same technology used for blah, blah, blah.
I underestimated you. I hate
His voice sounds good. The lines he was given were not
No, they
good.
were not good.
But his voice
sounds great.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we'll see where it goes. I have less than I feel gloriously detached by not caring. Like it took me like an entire day to get through this episode. I was just like, I'd make it about 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is so boring. Oh, this dialogue is so bad. Oh, this is so stupid. And I don't try to be the Debbie Downer all the time, but I'm the Debbie Downer.
I'm not
today.
trying to be either, and I know I'm biased coming into this, but no one was more excited for Force Awakens than I was.
The problem is
until
though,
I left the theater.
The problem is though is they should expect you to be upset with it because of your strong attachment to the lore. Right. I'm the person that they should be looking to make like less angry because I don't really care.
Right, you should be able to enjoy it.
But they can't even do that. So that's a problem. So
I have another question.
Go for it.
What could the upcoming series, Andor or Ahsoka, get right? How could they correct course?
I think they have an easier time because they're going to go, well, For Ahsoka, there's a lot of things you could do. I don't know.
It better be all Ahsoka as far as I'm concerned. It should just be.
I think
it will be. It's just about some ancillary, new character.
It better not be about some guy named like Rondo who like just hangs out with Ahsoka.
Right.
Named Marty.
Yeah, there better not be a side character named Marty who takes up all the time from Ahsoka.
They seem to love Ahsoka, so I expect she will take the spotlight. But both of those shows have the opportunity that the Kenobi show does not have, to be a lot more detached from the source material.
Exactly.
Which is what I want them to do, because they keep messing up and doing things that don't line up with what's already out there. So just tell me a new story,
Perfect.
But that's, at the same time, why does it need to be part of Star Wars if you're coming up with
because who's going to
totally
click
new?
Some weird blue alien girl if it's not Star Wars?
Exactly. Like they need to use the name to sell the product.
I guess so.
They need to use the name to sell the product. So thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.